to Coffee in the Swarm, a Project Zion podcast production, coming to you from Graceland University in Lamoni, Iowa. The Swarm is our on-campus snack bar and the Newcomb Student Union. This year, our podcast is co-hosted by campus chaplains Levi Triplet and myself, Aliyah Farrell, and is hosted by campus minister Mike Hoffman. Coffee in the Swarm is where we interview students at Graceland who are connected to the community of Christ. Today, we are with our second guest speaker, Katie Bover. Okay, tell us about yourself. Tell us your story.
Hi, I'm Katie. My story, I don't know. I grew up in Independence, Missouri, and around the Kansas City area. I've been there my entire life, and then I've been at Graceland all 4 years so far.
Where'd you go to high school? I
went to high school at Truman High School in Independence.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
We have a lot of...
How was that experience living in Independence?
Pretty good. I liked school for the most part, like throughout, but I liked the area because I was really close to a lot of my family that I was close with, and then being in Independence and being surrounded by like so many Community of Christ congregations, I had a really fun experience, like growing up with the youth in church, just because we had so much around us.
Mm-hmm. So, did you ever visit the other Graceland campus in Independence?
I've been there once or twice before, but not a whole lot, just because it is like a lot of the nursing and then some of the master's programs. So I haven't actually been on the campus a lot, but for a couple of years there on my way to school, I drove by it every morning. So I know exactly where it is.
Yeah, I was just asking for the sake of my own curiosity because I'm doing nursing.
Nice.
So moving on, tell us about your year, major, and your house.
So I'm a senior. This is actually my last semester. I'm graduating in December. My house is Soraya, and I've been on Soraya all 4 years, so that's been a lot of fun.
Oh, okay. So it's Aliyah's house too.
Yes, we get to be together.
Okay.
Yeah, she didn't come to house meeting last night.
Oh,
I didn't.
She was not in attendance.
We don't talk about that.
Okay.
I'm there most of the time. But yeah, so I've been on Soraya, which has been really good, and my major is allied health and human movement science.
What influenced you to want to do allied health and movement science?
I'd say a lot of it was, I knew I wanted to do something in the medical field. I knew I didn't really want to be like doctor or a nurse. I knew like there's so many other careers out there. I didn't know a whole lot about them, but I kind of knew I wanted to do something in that. And I was able to actually get some experience through family members who, my grandma, when she was sick, like for a while before she passed away, and she had a lot of therapists who would come to her house. She had like PT, OT, stuff like that who would come. And so I got really interested like by watching them work with her. And then I had the opportunity next year in school to do an allied health program, which was the entire purpose of the class was exploring literally every occupation that's not a doctor or a nurse. So I got to learn kind of about everything out there, which was a lot of fun.
That was in high school?
It was in high school, yeah. Okay. So it was a half-day program in Lee Summit called Summit Tech, and they have like a nursing program in allied health. They have a lot of stuff in engineering, and they work with all the schools in the Kansas City metro.
Did Graceland have its allied health when you first got here?
Yes, it was only a couple years. It was really new.
I knew it started after I got here, but
I don't remember when in high school it started. Okay. It started sometime when I was in high school. You got here. Yeah, because I remember when I was early high school, they didn't really have that, and then kind of right around when I started looking for schools and actually getting really into it is about when they started. So
okay.
Okay, and then what was church like for you back home in Independence?
So I've been surrounded by Community of Christ my entire life. I grew up going to East Dalton, which was a congregation in Independence.
It's closed now,
mm-hmm.
Right? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
So we closed down the very, very beginning of 2020, right before COVID and everything.
So it really wasn't related to COVID, the closing.
No, it was a really long process. Gotcha. We had been talking about it for probably a year and a half or two. A lot of it was due to just the building we were in it was taking lots and lots of money to keep up, and the repairs we were doing weren't really sticking, and it just wasn't a sustainable, we were going to lose a lot more money trying to fix it every couple years. Then.
So was it closed before you came to Graceland then? Or
Yeah. So it actually closed the week before the pandemic started.
Oh.
So yeah.
And when did you come to, what was your first year at Graceland?
It was fall of 2020.
Okay.
So, so East Alton closed like it was either late February or early March of 2020. And then that was the pandemic. And then I graduated in May of 2020 and I started here August of 2020.
Okay.
So what brought you to Graceland?
Just kind of the same thing, how I've been surrounded by Community of Christ my whole life. I kind of have always known about Graceland. Mm-hmm. I didn't know about specifics of it till I was older, but a lot of people in my family went to Graceland. So I grew up kind of hearing the name. And then I have family here in Limoni, and they actually live right across from Founders. And
that's your grandparents, right?
It's my great aunt and uncle. It's my mom.
Uncle.
Yeah, it's my mom's aunt and uncle.
That's right.
Okay. But we would come up here probably a couple times a year to visit. So just visiting their house, I would see Graceland. And especially as a little kid, it was fun to be like right across from the whole campus and see everything. So I kind of always just knew about it, heard about it. And then when I got older, and especially in high school, I went to spec every year that I could, which was a ton of fun. And so between that and then just being in Independence, there was always Graceland reps at events I was going to and stuff like that. So as I went throughout high school and learned more about it, I really liked the way our student life is set up and just some of the really unique experiences that Graceland provides in terms of just student life and activities and opportunities that you get. And then, like I said earlier, right in the middle of my high school, when I was starting to kind of figure this out, is when they started their allied health program. And so once that kind of got started, I was like, this is perfect. It has a good program for me. And I liked all that other stuff too. So.
Yeah. And then to kind of like piggyback off of that, like, just like tell us about your Graceland experience this far and how you've been doing and liking it and stuff.
Yeah. I've loved it. It's been a ton of fun. My freshman year was really weird because that was still the very beginning of the pandemic. That was still before vaccines, before all of that. And so especially that first semester, I guess really the whole year, we weren't really having many events on campus. It was still masks everywhere. Mm-hmm. There wasn't people hanging out in the student union, anything like that. So I'd say my freshman year was definitely a little weird. And as a freshman who has and had a lot of social anxiety, my freshman year was kind of a lot of just kind of sticking to myself. My group of friends were all on Soraya, so it was a lot of just us hanging out on hall, not doing a whole lot. And then my sophomore year, when stuff started opening back up, we were still really cautious and went by COVID like protocols. There was a couple times masks went back on for a while off, but the campus was pretty much back to normal in terms of events we were having and stuff. So I'd say my sophomore year is really when I was able to get involved with a lot of like the clubs and things that I do. And really my sophomore year is when I kind of found my place.
Yeah. And what has been your really church experience here at Graceland?
Yeah. So my freshman year, like I said, I didn't really do a whole lot. Campus ministries had some events. I didn't go. I went to a couple of them, but not very many. And my sophomore year, I wanted to be on Soraya's house council. And when we were looking at positions and stuff, chaplain was the one that I was most interested in. I liked the idea of getting more involved in the church life, but also just, I've always really liked to be that person that like people can go to if they need anything. And I see a lot of that in chaplain too. And so that's the one I ran for. That's the one I did. So sophomore year as a house chaplain. And so I was able to do a lot of those events. And then I ended up really falling in love with it. I loved the connection to church that I had missed the year before. I don't think I'd realized how much I missed it. And I just really loved the group of people. It's very much a group of people that I felt like I belonged in. And I just loved the whole experience. And so then going into my junior year, I wanted to stay involved in campus ministries. And so I became the Safe Ride and Safe Walk coordinator. We had just started the program up the semester before that. So it was still kind of new. We're still kind of figuring it out. So that's what I did last year. That was my technical job, but I kind of helped with a bunch of random stuff throughout campus ministries, like services and stuff like that.
Could you explain Safe Ride and Safe Walk a little bit more? Because I don't know that all of our listeners would know.
No, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So it's basically just a campus safety program. It is on weekdays, every weekday except Tuesday. We are running from 8:00 to midnight, and there's 4 people here in the office. And if anyone doesn't feel safe walking on campus in the dark, or anything like that, there's a lot of random spots on campus that get really dark and things like that. So if someone doesn't want to walk by themselves, they call in, and then 2 of our employees go meet them wherever they're at, and we'll walk them wherever they're going. So that one's just an easy way to have somebody else by you walking at night. And then Safe Ride is probably like the bigger part of it at the moment. That one is Friday and Saturday nights, and we get one of the Graceland issued vehicles, and we run from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And anyone, wherever they are in Limoni, can call and get a ride back to campus, no questions asked. Just a free ride. Don't have to tell us what you're doing or why. We'll just go pick you up wherever you are in Limoni and bring you back to campus. And then something we've just started this semester too is doing rides for people who don't have their own transportation. So if you have like a doctor's appointment in Des Moines, or you have to go to the Des Moines airport to either leave or get picked up, if we can find someone to cover that ride, we've been doing some of those too.
Yeah, that's been quite a challenge though for
Yes.
us, hasn't it?
Yes.
Finding times when people are available to drive when students need them. So yeah.
That one's still the new part. So we're still figuring that one out.
Yeah.
So earlier we were talking about how you're graduating in
Yes.
the spring. So can you just tell us a little bit about your plans, like after you graduate and all that?
So, like I said, this is my last semester, so I'm graduating in December, and then I will just be living at home, independence, just kind of working through the spring semester, taking a break before grad school. So I'll just be at home working. I'm sure I'll come up here and visit a lot because a lot of my friends are still up here, and I'm only 2 hours away. So you'll see me up here in the spring. But so I'll just kind of be taking a break, and then I will hopefully be starting grad school in May. So I don't know exactly where I'll end up right now, but hopefully all goes according to plan. I'll be starting grad school in May.
Yes, and then I was talking to you a couple weeks ago, and you told me you wanted to go into peds.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah. So I want to do physical therapy. So just working with human movement, things like that. And specifically, I want to go into pediatrics. I've always really loved kids. I've always that's been a part of my personality that everyone around me has known since I was still a kid. I've always just really gravitated towards children and love working with them. And as I've shadowed a lot of different kind of specialties in physical therapy, I've done like hospital, outpatient, pediatrics, stuff like that. And that kind of just confirmed it for me. I loved the days that I was doing pediatrics. I liked everything that I did, but that one I really loved those days. And so I want to work with kids. So it'll probably be a lot of kids with either like developmental delays, birth defects, kind of like those kind of things.
That's awesome. We wish you the best going forward.
Thank you.
So kind of our last question here, the big question. What are your hopes for the community of Christ in the future?
That is a big question.
Yeah, I might add too.
Yeah.
Right now we're in a period of time with the church where we're discerning future leadership. So, if you wanted to share anything about that too, not only to the leadership, but maybe about leadership.
Yeah.
In the future.
I will say something I've always loved about Community of Christ is how, kind of progressive we are in terms of some of the other religions that like friends have been a part of or I've learned about. I've really liked how open to change we are, how accepting we are of just everybody, everything. And we're kind of at a point where kind of in total, but then especially with discerning that new leadership that we're going to have, very, very much a time of change. And I would just say to not be afraid of change. Don't be afraid to be uncomfortable is really something that I've learned just the past couple of years here. Throughout my church and just in my life is something that I've really had to work with, and something I've heard my entire life growing up, like from the church is, your generation's future leadership, your generation's going to be the one to change things.
Yeah.
And which I've always liked, but especially the past couple of years as I've kind of taken on some new roles, there's always the people that support that, but then I've also gotten a lot of, I hear that, and then when I either try to do something new or like say sometimes a lot of pushback just because it is new, and just kind of to remind everyone, like, everything is going to be new at some point, and it's not going to be perfect the first time we start it. Like I said, with like Safe Ride and Safe Walk, like you have to do a lot of trial and error before you figure things out. And so just to not be afraid to be comfortable and be uncomfortable, and just for that change.
Again, we can see the next question.
Okay, do we have any closing thoughts from anybody?
Is there anything else you'd like to share that we haven't asked you about?
I guess I kind of touched on it a minute ago, but just something I've always loved through Community of Christ. And I think a lot of it was partially that I was an independent, so I was surrounded by a ton of congregations and stuff like that. But I've always really loved just the connection and community that I've received through Community of Christ. So I grew up, all of my friends would come to my church's youth activities and I would go to theirs, and that was definitely a big part of me growing up. And said I went to spec, I grew up at camps and stuff like that. That's always just been a really big part of my identity in my life. I'd say my church life was more so than me at school. I had a lot more friends and relationships and stuff outside of school because of that. And I've just really, really appreciated, especially the past couple of years at Graceland, my connections with Community of Christ and campus ministries has really pushed me out of my comfort zone a lot. And it's really helped me kind of figure out who I am and what I want to do. And it's both been something that has pushed me out of my comfort zone a lot, but also supported me in that. And I've just really appreciated that the past couple of years.
I think we all can attest to that going to camps.
Yeah.
Definitely. So
yeah.
Definitely every Community of Christ kid is in that
I ended up, I love camp so much. I came down to Texas and went to Aliyah's campground this summer.
So actually, fun fact, our moms were roommates at Graceland.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So when she came down, our moms had a reunion.
Were they both in the same house too? Or they
they were. No,
I don't think they were.
They were.
Solid.
Yes, they were solid. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, that whole connection about retreats and camps, it even applies to us older people too. Because I joined the church. Yeah, no, I don't mean just me, but a lot of us grew up going to camps and retreats as our, a big part of our church life.
Yeah, and, it's definitely something I've tried to keep to, especially in high school. I did kind of all the camps I could on staff wise and stuff. And now that I'm a little bit older, I try and at least do one a summer. So I usually do the junior camp down at mine. But like I said, I love camp so much. I wanted to try something new. So I went down to Texas and I went to a new one this summer. And we had a pretty active young adult kind of group in Independence in Kansas City area. And so we had like a retreat that we did last winter and stuff like that. So it's something I still try. And it's obviously not going to be as much as it was when I was a kid, but it's something I try and keep a little bit of.
That's great.
Okay, well, with that being said, I think that wraps up things for today. So thank you, Katie, so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you all for listening. This is Aliyah.
And Levi.
And Mike.
Signing off until next time.